I am a steamboat pilot. I lived here all of my life, but I was not born in New Albany. I was born in the little town of Providence, in Mr. Jones's little town of Providence, up about the K&I Bridge. My father, James Conner, and my uncle Thomas ran the New Albany Portland ferry boat. And so I grew up on the river, and I learned to be a steersman, and then a cub, and finally a pilot. The New Albany pilots were always so proud of the New Albany boats that were made here in New Albany. They were the best boats on the river. They were strong, and they were fast and durable, and we were so proud when we were piloting one of their boats that was made down in the yards and the ways down in New Albany. The Glendy Burke was a mighty fast boat, and she had a mighty fast pilot too. I was a pilot on the Glendy Burke. The Glendy Burke was immortalized by Collins in one of his early songs. The Glendy Burke was made here in New Albany in 1851, and it started a boom here in steamboat building that was unsurpassed, although we had been building steamboats here since 1820. We were so proud when we were a pilot on one of these boats. A steamboat had to be fast. We just loved to race. Anybody loves a race, you know. And a steamboat race was something wonderful. But there was a practical reason for our speed. We had to get down to the landings and the wharfs down the river to Brandenburg and to Leavenworth before the other boats got there. And then we would pick up the tariff and the traffic there, you see. Another reason, passengers wanted to get from Portland and New Albany to New Orleans just as quickly as they could. And so this is maybe a 8-10 day journey down there in those days, you see. Another reason, there were so many accidents, steamboat explosions on the river, the racing was prohibited. And so the federal government says, no more racing on the river, we'll put you in jail. The pilot was responsible. That's what the federal government said. The post office said, whoever has the fastest boat between Portland and New Orleans gets the mail contract. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? But that's the way it was. And so we were racing on the river, up and down the river. The river life was not always easy. The steamboats went through various stages of engineering, development, and things like this. One of their big problems was boiler explosions. And many a steamboat on the Ohio went down in account of boiler explosions. Above Cincinnati one time, the Moselle was up there, left Cincinnati, went up the river to pick up some German immigrants on a barge coming down. They stopped in midstream and waited for the barge to come. And in this time, they lost water into the boilers, and the boiler exploded and killed about 44 of these German immigrants coming down from Pennsylvania on down, you see. One of the worst steamboat disasters was the Sultana, and this was during the Civil War. The Sultana was an older boat in bad repair because during the war years there wasn't much repairs and things like this. It was loaded down in Memphis or so with Union soldiers, Some of them had been released from Andersonville and Libby prison. Some of them were just coming home. And just out of Memphis, the boiler exploded, killing about 1,500 Union soldiers. Maybe more, because there's no accurate count. That was a tragic thing, wasn't it? But it got little notice in the press. 1,500 soldiers went at Antietam. They lost 20,000 soldiers, and at Gettysburg, you see, 1,500 soldiers almost went unnoticed. You know. It was noticed in the paper and things. It was the worst maritime steamboat disaster in the history of the United States. One of the things, New Albany was a river town. We looked to the south. Every dollar earned, every dollar spent went south. We were southern looking. And the steamboats were involved, you see. Over on 1st and 2nd Street in Louisville was slave markets. They would auction off the slaves. They were all dressed up, duded up and everything to make them sell good. Then they were shackled and marched down to the steamboats. And here they were loaded down into our holds to be taken to the sugar plantations down in Louisiana. Never to return again. New Albany was southern looking. Basically, it was Union because this was a free territory. Indiana Territory had been free since 1786. We were free here. We wanted to preserve the Union, you see. So we were divided, the New Albany people. That was a sad time when we have to remember that the slaves that was our cargo. We could load them on like the hogs and the cows, and all the commerce and things like this. Haul them south. Just never to return again. Folks, it's nice to be with you tonight. And I enjoyed being a steamboat pilot. I knew many of the personalities on the river. I was a pilot on the Shotwell. I was a pilot on the Robert E. Lee. 1871, I was a pilot on the Robert E. Lee. Mr. Cannon built a boat here in New Albany, 1866. They launched a boat. They said they were going to name it to Robert E. Lee. New Albany people said, if you do, we will burn it down. Because Lincoln had just been assassinated. Feelings were high here in New Albany. If you name it to Robert E. Lee, we will burn it down. So they sneaked it out, took it over to Portland, and named it the Robert E. Lee. It never again returned to New Albany. Thank you for coming. Good evening.
Thank you.